Gergana, welcome to the Commerce Talks podcast. Today we are talking about Wild Fabrik, a company you're heading. You're located in Dubai, which I found surprising given the name of the company. But maybe you can tell us a bit more about Wild Fabrik and your own story.
Sure. So thank you so much for having me, first of all. We started Wild Fabrik. Initially, the idea started during COVID. And COVID was a very interesting time. I think a lot of countries had it worse off than we did here in the UAE. But it was very, very clear just how interconnected everyone really was. We're used to traveling here. So more than a few times a year, you go to Sri Lanka or Thailand or anywhere really, and you pick up some really beautiful things that you cherish. They have a story. They're made somewhere. They are unique. And during COVID, no one could travel. So there was a lot of demand for things that usually you're not going to find those kinds of things on Amazon. Those products won't ship here. So there was a consumer need, but there was also a heavy seated merchant need. You had very talented people making beautiful things that have been underselling themselves for years. They didn't have any savings to fall back on, and they had all these beautiful things to sell. So there was a gap. Me and my partners felt, how do we help? But in a way where it's sustainable, you're helping others, but at the same time, you can make a profit and they can make more profit, and the people are actually getting the items that they're looking for. I'm a big win-win person, and I felt, early on that we can create a win-win-win where everyone gets the most out of a transaction. So we set up Wild Fabrik as a marketplace for those kinds of products, essentially.
And just like for the ones that are not living in the UAE, if you were to describe the USP of this marketplace, so is it stuff you can also find on Amazon or Noon? Is it like exclusively sold at your website? Are you owning any inventory, or is it really just like a marketplace where people present their inventory?
So we have a very mixed model. So we have fashion, lifestyle, kids, accessories, and beauty. Our USP is that we're a one-stop shop for all things beautiful and sustainable. We look at the fashion side of things as well. So we do think something needs to be fashionable and sustainable to really fall within the Wild Fabrik category. We have a mix. So we have some brands that we hold stock for. We have other brands that are on consignment. We have brands that are exclusive to us, and we have other brands which you will find here, but not on any of the platforms. We prefer to work with small brands. They're the ones no one wants to work with because they are the hardest. There's a lot of education in what we do. There's a huge social enterprise part of Wild Fabrik because we believe that those people need help. Beyond just selling their products, but also, advisory things, workshops and etc. So, currently we have around 13,000 products. We represent around 130 brands at the moment, and we're growing very quickly. And there are unique things. Some things you might find here, but most things you cannot.
And can you give us apart from the amount of products you're selling, some rough business numbers, how many people are working for you? You don't need to go into revenue details, but you can share it. It's a small round here. So whatever you can share, we're happy to hear.
So, okay, to start with, we're fully self-funded from day one. We are currently fundraising for the first time. So we are about 6 people. I have a very dedicated admin team that manages all the online part. We also have a store in Festival City, so there is staff there managing the on-the-ground sales. What other figures I can give you? We are past, we've made more than $500,000 so far. We've only been open for around 3 years. It's been an upward trend all the way. The reason why we're fundraising now is because now we have a proven model. I wanted to really achieve that before we are asking for external funding. And spending a lot of money on the website has been sort of our focus. So this is our second website now that we've gone through. We did it from scratch last year. It needed to be done. There is a lot to be said about conversion rates and user experience and all the journeys that we had to redo. But there's a lot of potential in digital. Like we've done our market studies now. Obviously, there's here in the region, it's good to have a physical store. That's why we have that, and we're planning on expanding on both fronts. From a business perspective, it makes perfect sense. People still have time to go to the mall. It's very hot half the year, so you want to go to the mall. It's very different in Europe, where really the physical stores is declining. It's different than the region, I think.
So Gergana, maybe you can tell us more about the whole eco-friendly sort of sustainable model that you have, because, in Europe, maybe it is quite regulated with all the certificates and et cetera. But, like Middle East is still, let's say, developing a lot of the regulations in this space. And especially as you are working with the smaller guys, also it's quite difficult for them to, let's say, stay sustainable. Maybe the idea was to do sustainability, but then, supply chain issues, the costing issues, it's quite easy to, let's say, go left rather than right. So tell us, more about your business model. How do you select the products, and how do you keep it up to that promise of sustainability to the consumers?
I think vetting brands is like our biggest, our biggest project from day one. Because when we first started, we did have a lot of European brands. And I know Europe is somehow regulated, but also it's just now starting to regulate. There's a lot of countries that were not regulated up until very recently. So we look at certifications. We also, for the brands that don't have certifications, we tend to do a deep dive into their operations. So we try to look at where they produce, where they get their fabrics from. We don't claim to be fully sustainable. We give the brands also a checklist, which they have to, sort of a promise that they have to make to us as well. So how are you sustainable? Is it the fabric? Is it the ethical production? Is it, if it's a beauty product, is it organic? So we are clearly labeling that for our consumers. We deep dive into the brands to make sure that they are really living up to that promise. And sometimes you also have to use a little bit self-judgment, because it's small brands. It's usually a small community, and you get a lot of the human touch. You understand who really cares about sustainability, not just from what they say, but how they say it and just how passionate they are. And you can touch fabrics as well. I mean, there's so much greenwashing happening everywhere. I remember we had ordered t-shirts from the US, organic cotton. This was a few years ago for this campaign we did with Emirates Nature, WWF. And they were supposed to be 100% organic cotton. And they arrived here to our tailor. And he stretched it, and he's like, this is not 100% cotton. It cannot be, because it's stretchy, so there's some elastin here, and the label is just not saying it. I mean, I'm saying this because I think we're still not there as a world, not just the UAE, and a place where all the claims can be 100%, verified. But we are doing our best on our part, on all accounts. And I hope to change legislation here. Essentially, that's one of my goals for Wild Fabrik, because it's very much needed. And it should be made affordable for small brands too, not just for big brands.
So this is what my next question actually. How do you educate the consumers in the Middle East? Because in maybe, again, Europeans, we get a lot of education from every direction, whether it's regulation, whether we are forced into it, or whether the supermarkets are doing their fair share. But maybe here we don't, as a consumer, I don't see that a lot often. And when it comes to the pricing, the customers are looking for the cheapest rather than judging the sustainable item in the sustainable category, right? So we sometimes compare something which is organic on your store to a copycat on Temu, and we think it's the same, So what are your thoughts as a brand? Are you trying to educate consumers in the region? And if you are, how are you doing it?
We're always trying to educate consumers. We do a lot of panel talks called Wild Talks, where we invite our customers and the people that we know into the conversation, and where we bring brands to tell their journey. I myself teach at the Marangoni Fashion School, and like a lot of these kids as well, I talk about sustainability like every class, I think. So education is always part of it. But something very interesting that is happening now is that the world, obviously we're overproducing at a mass rate. So a lot of the brands that we were considering before, mid-range brands that you think the quality is good. So let's say Massimo Dutti is a good example. Massimo Dutti's quality has gone down and their price has gone up. Where we are, when you look at our products, you're seeing the quality is very high and the price is maybe just under Massimo Dutti. So what I'm trying to really educate the consumer is less about the whole sustainability part, but more about quality. And because we understand quality, all consumers to a certain extent understand quality. So if you know that you can get a quality, fashionable item from us, I'm going to push that message more. And then the sustainability aspect always comes secondary because it's a feel good and it's also doing good. And there's an opportunity in that space. There is a gap in that space. I think people don't understand it, although they feel it. Like there's brands that I used to love. Now when I walk in, I cannot buy anything there. I touch the fabric and I can feel that it's not something that I actually want to put on me. So this is not just in my head. This is actually happening across all brands. I've even seen it in luxury brands where you walk in and you touch something, you're like, I wouldn't buy this even if it was, 200 dirhams, not 2,000 dirhams. So I think the quality aspect is critical to highlight. Sustainability, if it comes more from a story point of view, I think is where people are more welcome to it. If it's handmade and made in this area and it supports a community, these are the things, the heartstrings that I like to pull. And my staff, this is what we talk about in the store.
My former boss, the founder of the Otto, or the CEO of the Otto Group, Michael Otto, was very famous in the 80s, when he was one of the first retailers in Germany following, this kind of sustainability trend. And he's still quoted, with a sentence saying, everybody wants to have like a fair trade t-shirt. Nobody wants to pay $1 more. And which is quite interesting because that's what I am seeing still today, that people are saying it when you do like a survey, how important is sustainability for you and environmental aspects of a product. But at the same time, the people that are saying it's super important to me, they're buying at Shein. And then even these big platforms are like putting sustainability gamification stuff on their website, saying, okay, if you buy this, we are planting a tree in Indonesia, whatever, and we're like the most sustainable platform. And that makes me thinking that is sustainability really kind of a KPI you can build a business on, or is just something on top which you can use for storytelling? Because based on the performance of sustainable driven businesses in the past, competing with more like commercial driven businesses, let's take the Massimo Dutti example. I would say, from an environmental perspective, it's a wrong thing to do. From a business perspective, lower the quality, doing a bit more with influencers, increasing the prices, it's a perfect thing to do because people are very, very fast in forgetting what they were claiming in the surveys. So that makes me thinking a lot. So is this really a business model, or it's just like an interesting aspect of a strong business model, which can be elevated by sustainability?
Listen, in terms of sustainability, I think it's 100% necessary. Our world is finite in its current temperature state. If we don't start paying attention, things are going to get really bad. That's the truth. But then you look at consumer behavior and they will buy things that they like. So style, quality, price. And let's say price, you can make it value. So it makes more sense. That's really what it is. When we did our surveys, the truth is that's what people care about. But now where these two intersect is where we are, and also where we consult brands to be. Because you can be a small sustainable brand with the right style focus, So then what you're doing is you're crossing the consumer at what they're looking for, and then you're pushing sustainable from that angle. I think brands need to start thinking that way, because we are wishful to think that sustainability is why people shop. It is not the case. Most people that really care about sustainability actually shop a lot less, because they understand that they don't want to be massive consumers. But things have to change. There is absolutely no doubt in that. And I think now brands that are greenwashing, that are adding it just as a marketing, those days are starting to also dwindle, because the young consumer is not so easily fooled. I have a class of young Gen Zs that I teach fashion to. And when we talk about sustainability, they know that H&M is like this. They know that Zara is like this. They know this like this. And they are far less willing to go with brands that lie to them, to go with big brands that have all these campaigns. They're not dumb. They're not. And after a while, those big brands that are making stuff up won't work anymore. So either everyone has to start doing it seriously from a brand perspective, and start thinking about how to fuse the two, or we're headed to not such a good place, to be honest.
So moving from sustainability to more, like you mentioned, as a marketplace, you give an opportunity for a lot of these smaller brands that are pushing the same story as you, and you give them potentially the revenue, that they can keep up and build, invest more, and one day compete with Zara's. So tell us more about the overall, like, how does it work? You are e-commerce, you allow them to get on a marketplace, or you do everything for them? Because my experience working with a lot of brands in the Middle East is that the brands want to be on marketplaces, but they still don't have photos. They still don't want to invest in marketing. They still don't, they don't have anything. So tell us more about your business model. Are you like one shop for everything, or how does it work, when it comes to the B2B side, them getting onboarded?
So we try to assist them as much as possible. So we have an admin team that will onboard them and their products fully if they can't manage that themselves. Most of them take us up on that offer. In a few months, we're starting as well the photography part. You mentioned that it is true. A lot of brands don't invest in photography, and because photography can be quite expensive, they don't see the value in it. So we're going to be adding that as a service that we offer. Additionally, where brands struggle is the simplest of things, having a line sheet, a lookbook, which are very fashion. For that, we offer workshops. My partner is 20 years in fashion. She used to work for like Chloe, Yves Saint Laurent, so we bring her, and she gives tutorials to brands. We do workshops with them. We try to educate, give them the tools that they need, not just for us. At that point, we probably would have already onboarded them and done all the work, but for them moving forward, because we do want them to succeed. We want them to be in other marketplaces. That's the most that we can do at this point. We're launching something called Wild Association. It's our plan to create a social enterprise fully funded, hopefully by grants, where we can actually go into impoverished areas where there's merchants creating products that need even further help. Forget about the brand part. Talk about developing a product into something that's actually styled correctly. And that's where we see the majority of help that we want to offer in the future.
Okay. And then talking about customer then. So considering, you narrow it down, like the product offering and all, UAE is super competitive. And, in terms of, there's like, in a small territory, we have absolutely everything from hundreds of thousands of organic to sustainable to every fast fashion brand possible. So how do you acquire the customers? You said you are profitable from day one. So what is there any challenges when it comes to marketing? What's your acquisition strategy at the moment?
Breaking even. I would love to say we're profitable. Well, we are breaking even at the moment. We just, as we're fundraising, so we have some growth. That's number one. Number two, our cost acquisition is, relatively high. I think around $90 at the moment. We do a lot of events. So that's an easy, low-hanging fruit for us. It's a great way of engaging a lot of customers, engaging people in the area, getting signups, acquiring data from people that are coming to the events or want to come to the events. I do a lot of talks outside as well, so we try to acquire customers in that sense. But right now we're focusing on Google Ads. As competitive as the UAE is, it's nowhere near as competitive as what you would find in the UK or the US. So there's still some potential here for that. And that's our focus at the moment, Google Shopping Ads. And we're working with a new set of interns. So we're planning on doing a lot of young, fresh content across our socials. That's our current strategy. There is potential still. As much as it's saturated, if you really look into the saturation, especially with some of the unique products we have, there is still space. There's people are still shopping.
I would have a question from like a marketplace perspective. Usually what we are seeing is that marketplaces are now starting to help beyond just selling products, because the brands you're working with usually are so small they cannot afford like experienced online team. That's what Lina said. You usually see like problems in images generation, text generation, all this stuff. But then there's like a big opportunity in helping them also selling on other marketplaces. So you could like become a hub for them, like selling to like a sustainable marketplace in Europe, for example, or like in the US. If this market, for example, is not covered by Wild Fabrik, you can help them setting up their Google business page. So is it something you're like considering doing? Because what I understand and what I'm seeing is that is still kind of a traditional kind of marketplace approach, but as digital becomes more and more complex for everybody, there's like more in terms of services those brands might need.
I think it's not something that we have planned. Currently, our focus really is to be a successful marketplace, to be a one-stop shop for all these beautiful brands. We also focus on expanding our physical store. We think that physical is a much easier way to reach a lot more customers, especially provided they have the right experience. So we're focusing on those two fronts. We're focusing on helping them develop their style especially for impoverished areas that need that kind of assistance. But not on the personal marketing side. No, it's just not something that we're focused on. We're also looking at buying. So in a lot of countries, sometimes this commission-based model doesn't work. Maybe they need an upfront payment for the products, and that would help a lot to the community there. We've done that before, and we're planning on doing more of that, but at a fair price. I think that's very important for me to say. So not like, taking it down to something that's not reasonable for them. At least that's for Wild Fabrik, our 3 to 10-year plan at the moment. Things can change, of course.
Okay, then my last question before heading to the final questions to Lina. So many marketplaces that have been expanding successfully in globally in the last years, they on their way in this on their expansion way, they started to build their own brands. So is it something you could think about, like for a niche where you don't find proper suppliers? I don't know, like earrings or so, building something on yourself, because it's very tempting. You see that there's maybe demand and search on your website and you cannot fulfill because you don't have the products and there's no supplier. Is it something you're playing around with?
In fact, it is. We have a brand already and we're working on expanding that brand. So it is part of our business model. Yes.
Okay.
All right. So final comment from me then. So Gergana, if all the brands, so I work with international brands entering the region or vice versa. I just came back from Saudi, as we discussed earlier, and every single Saudi brand is actually looking to start exporting in 2025. So actually
Nice.
made in Saudi will be available all over the GCC, and the vision is actually UK and global. So if they entering the UAE and they would want to sell on your store, like, why should they do it? Give us like the 30-second pitch in a while. Why Wild Fabrik is the best marketplace to be on?
Well, we're the one place to find unique products that are sustainable. We really care about each brand. We know that there's a lot of small brands there. We don't treat them like big brands. We try to help every which way we can. We give them more exposure than just having a retail online place. We give them a physical store. We do pop-ups. We bring them to pop-ups. We do talks. We give them exposure. I don't know any other marketplace that does that kind of personalized support. A lot of these big marketplaces, you put your product there, take it or leave it, finish. We're trying to do something a little bit more different. And I think that community is a really added benefit for a lot of fledgling new brands.
Agree. Alex, any final
Super
thoughts?
cool. Yeah, no, I think we will have like a post-podcast discussion with Lina. I tried to find parallels like in Europe. I 100% like understand the approach, but as you said, you don't do like an advertisement like most sustainable brands, because like many companies are like copying this now. We are a sustainable brand, so you find like another story around it. Super interesting, definitely a prospering niche and a very cool episode of Commerce Talks. So there, Gergana, thanks you for being guest in our show.